Welcome back to Inclusive Design 24 2019, brought to you in partnership with our gold supporters, Barclays Access and Intopia. You can subscribe to Inclusive Design 24 on YouTube by visiting youtube.com/Inclusive Design 24 and hitting the subscribe button. You can also follow ID24Conf on Twitter. And if you have any questions for the presenters, please tweet them using the ID24 hashtag, and we'll ask them at the end of the session. 24 is a respectful community with a code of conduct that is available on our website. And we have joining us ID24 OVO Energy in Bristol, UK. Thank you very much for joining us. I hope you are enjoying the show.
So next up, we have Sven Jenser, who will be talking about how to drive web accessibility in a big organization. Over to you, Sven.
Hello, my name is Sven Jenser. I'm happy to be a part of this positive and future-oriented project, ID24. I'm employed at UBS in Zurich, multinational financial services company, and I'm heading Web Accessibility Initiative at the Global Marketing and Communications Department. Former stations of me have been digital agencies as well as the Swiss Foundation Access for All. Besides working as a UX architect, I specialized as a subject matter expert for accessibility and have been involved in many projects for accessibility. Yeah, and my first project was in 1998, creation of a web-based guide for students with disabilities for the University of Zurich and the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology, ETH Zurich. The key messages of my talk: people face many challenges when they must implement web accessibility in a big organization, as it touches many different fields of work and responsibility. Establishing a process is an opportunity for a strategic approach in many fields, and making the connection to the talk before, there is a clear lack of knowledge of people that are educated and to apply and know how to apply accessibility in the industry. Let's then get real. We'll show you how we did the implementation at UBS and how we go forward there. Let's first look at the procedure in general. For planning and managing web accessibility, there is a model online from the W3C, Web Accessibility Initiative Working Group. And this proposal is quite good. It outlines the activities to help integrate accessibility throughout the web production process. It has a lot of helpful details that reflect the experiences many organizations made, and it can be adapted to your needs. I can strongly recommend this. On our side, we adapted the model a bit and tried to bring some important steps more to the light. For example, first, clear gather baseline information, do the basic training. Then the second, gain top level support. Your management needs to support you. Create a policy, define a standard, very important step. Raise awareness, connect with like-minded people. So you really have to reach out and make connections to other stakeholders, etc. I mean, these 7 steps are a good start for implementing a process. What I would strongly recommend is to look at the change models that are out there. Here is the example of Kotter's 8-step change model. It bases on the 3 phases: creating a climate for change, engaging and enabling the whole organization, and third, implementing and sustaining the change. I see here very important points that help you in practice a lot. You have to create a certain state of urgency. So people need to be pushed in a way to do the step for a change. Then you have to create coalitions. You have clearly to develop a vision and a strategy to say, this is the goal and we can reach it. and etc. I think this model is really helpful, and there's nothing permanent except change. That's an old quote from Heraclit, and I think it's really true. Let's look at some points to consider when planning and managing web accessibility in a big organization. A helpful start is always to do a state analysis, where you look at your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I mean, we have here on the example, senior management support as a strength. We have a strong IT as a strength. They create a template which is really good, which is on an accessibility level of 80%. And we have a publishing team that is very motivated. At the other hand, we have internally weaknesses, because we have a very distributed responsibility in content production. And we have content owners that have zero knowledge and interest on accessibility. We should always highlight opportunities. We work for a broader customer base. We can gain better reputation as a socially responsible and sustainable company. And we can measure better ranking in Google when we do optimize our pages. The threats are clear: lawsuits for companies that are active in the US or UK or certain countries, reputation risk, and yeah, that's how it looks like. And it's good to always have a look at those strengths and weaknesses that can change during the process. Another important point to consider are the 3 tactical swim lanes. I would say awareness, leadership, and policies and procedures. You always have to put quite a lot of effort to these 3 swim lanes. Awareness, present the business case accessibility. I will show you in detail. That's really important. You have to explain why you do this, and must have a reason, a reasonable reason to do this. That's not so easy. Then very important is make it visible. You have teams that support you. Bring them to the meetings, make them visible in the presentations and during your activities. Bring activities to light. Make tailored role-specific information and education materials. We will show you later. And then leadership is very important. You have to gain a clear top-down decision. It must be a clear decision from the management that you should apply accessibility, and not kind of just a humanistic idea of a developer. You have to set realistic but visionary objectives, and I think that's important to break those down into intermediate goals and show a roadmap how you can reach those intermediate goals. And very important, enable interdisciplinary work and exchange. I will show you as well. Policies and procedures, clear. You really need that. It must be written, a clear policy with a clear mandate and scope. And you should run a change model and adapt the roadmaps for every department that is involved. At the end, you should enable test and monitoring so that it gets reflected from external experts what you are doing. How to present the business case accessibility. You should identify the opportunities specific to your business. And the goal is to have broader customer base, and you should show the potential based on market analysis. You have always the myths around, for example, people say, for our business, people with disabilities are irrelevant. There is a good study, and the key finding of that study from Gartner from 2018 shows that the total after-tax disposable income of people with disabilities in the US represents a market value of 490 billion, which is 7.2% of the disposable income of US people. And the market potential is even larger, around 1 trillion when considering their families. That's really an eye-opening report, and I recommend to adapt that to your industry and show the potential. A second important point is the reputation as a socially responsible and sustainable company. So nowadays, no company can ignore these points. And you should connect you to the CSR department and maybe as well to the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, from the United Nations. Then the other points, they are clear, but remarkable. You'll have better ranked websites in Google, and at the end, inclusive design is better design. Why is that the case? You have here at the y-axis the number of people. It's a diagram, a handmade diagram, showing the effect to reach the potential users of your website or application or however. And at the bottom, at the x-axis, we see the experience from hard to use to easy to use. And I mean, it's simple but true. The easier your applications are, the more people can use them and are happier to use them. I mean, everybody is frustrated with a hard to use application, and it's clear that this application is as well excluding people. So the goal is clearly to go for easy to use. And that's why inclusive design is better design. Make decisions with strategy in mind. Every design decision we make either raises or lowers barriers for the people who are using our product services we are creating. The majority, 57% of working age adults benefits from the use of accessible computer technology. That was a huge research study commissioned by Microsoft and conducted by Forrester Research in 2023. And the determination there at the end was the concept of disability may have limited the understanding of the need for accessible technology. The IT industry must consider the wide range of people who could benefit. How to consider inclusiveness and accessibility? There are two frameworks that can be helpful in your daily work. The one is the Web Accessibility Guidelines, WCAG, and the other is the Inclusive Design Principles. These principles, inclusive design principles, are about putting people first. It's about designing for the needs of people with permanent, temporary, situational, or changing disabilities, all of us, really. And I don't want to go into the details here, but these 7 points, these 7 principles are really useful in daily work. There is a website online, inclusivedesignprinciples.org, I can strongly recommend. And in my experience, marketers can much better adapt such principles to their work as the following Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. You see here, it's quite a complex framework with a normative part and principles, guidelines, and then success criteria that are testable. And at the other hand, we have the informative part with the techniques that help you find a good solution for accessibility. The techniques are expandable, and yeah, I'm pretty sure quite a lot of us spend a lot of time to understand success criteria and interpret and explain them. Let's now look a bit more on the hands-on part of the topic, and let me show you how we did that at UBS. We have here a team inside GMCS, Global Marketing and Communication Services. We manage and develop marketing and communication platforms such as ubs.com, the intranet, analytics, and as well email marketing. Workplaces of us are in New York, London, Zurich, Wrocław, Krakow, Poland, Mumbai, India, Hong Kong, and Singapore. We have about 350 employees out of 65,000 of UBS. Why does it matter to the business of UBS? We have legal implications. It's mandatory in some countries, and lawsuits alleging that plaintiffs with a disability could not use the website, they are on the increase. We have then a business impact. We want to ensure that all prospects and clients have access to our products and services. And yeah, we have seen that in the future, people will, the population will age, will get older, and very soon 25 to 35% of the population in developed countries will be over 65 years old, and there the number of disabilities is in the increase, that's clear. But we will as well be a positive company, and making the web accessible benefits individuals, businesses, and the society. That's clear. I mean, derived from that, we have our strategic objectives, and we want to comply with WCAG 2.1 level AA by 2020 with 95% of the publicly available content. I often have to explain why 95%, and that's then always good to explain that it's really hard to fulfill 100% or in principle impossible. But as we have analytics and monitoring running, we can really measure the level of accessibility, and we will try to reach that level. How we implement accessibility. We have here on the screen a model with 3 phases: 1 formation, 2 transfer, and 3 consolidation. And I don't know if you have noticed, but this is derived from the earlier shown Kotter's change model, and it's based on these 8 steps, but is now kind of a transfer into operations model, where we in the formation phase prepare us for the transfer. We prepared an accessible template, so that was kind of a pre-work that we said we have to get a technical major framework or template ready for all the publishing work that is really accessible and responsive. Then we prepared publishing guidelines that explain how to use it with a section for accessibility. We'll show that later, and prepared a policy. In the transfer part, we built an accessibility core group for the implementation. We'll show that as well in detail. And we raised training and awareness activities. We built tailored guidelines and checklists, or I would say we looked at every team created their own guidelines and checklists. So we brought them to the level that they understand and create exactly to their needs what needs to be done. In the consolidation phase, we will, or we are now rolling out monitoring in the different groups, and it's an automated tool that supports us in monitoring accessibility. So quality assurance is embedded into the workflows, and very important, it's as well included into the job profiles and the contracts for third parties. Yeah, if you look at that, I mean, it needs time and effort to make a template responsive and accessible. And we started in September 2016 and had then in November first external accessibility audit by an external test body. Did then improvement and launched the template in 2017. Since then, we had another second accessibility audit by external body, and now in 2018, we did an update from 2.1 to 2.1, WCAG 2.1, with the 12 new A and II criteria, and had a third audit where we again found some technical issues that we are now optimizing. And we are as well excluding false positives to make our reports look better. Let's quickly look at how we apply inclusive design principles in practice. I mean, it's a very theoretical stuff. And how is that in practice? Through user feedback. During the redesign process of our homepage, we ran usability tests. One test person had age-related visual impairment. The person overlooked an important navigation element entirely, and in the question round, we clarified that it was not recognized at all. And even after explanation, was still very hard to use. Let me quickly show you. That's the prototype that we have built for testing the concept that was created by user experience designer together with the marketers. The idea was here to have 4 segment-specific groups, and a client of a company would then first click here, and then, sorry for the German, but we used it in usability tests here in Switzerland with German-speaking people. And yeah, a wealthy guy would then click here and look for information. On these sections, we would then have tailored information, and you see it's a lot. Marketing had really the idea to provide as much information at the top, at the start, as possible. During the usability test, we found out that certain people, and as I explained before, one guy, he totally ignored the entire navigation section here and moved down directly to these quick access elements and pushed those elements. And he really reached his topics and was able to find the way into the content. What does that meant for us? We have this example here. We, based on this inclusive design principle, consider situations, seek out points of exclusion. We decided to offer choice, to offer different ways to engage, and those ways should really be equivalent. And so we increased the size and the the validity or the importance of this access element. How can we help with these tailored quick access links? And let me show you again quickly how it looks now. At the end, we have still the navigation, but then very prominently these access elements. There is in between always a promotion, but you should on each screen see a bit of this access element and can easily overjump the navigation and find your topics here. An additional way to access the page is then in the footer is the doormat and with the search functionality. Yeah, inclusive design helped us to explain our design decision, because our business partners and they are marketers and they need really a sound explication, and they need in principle evidence. So we have to prove what we make and why we reduce the amount of links and information in these sections. That's needs to be proven. We can't say just by design it would look nicer. So we have to explain it in a way. And usability tests are really a good way to apply inclusive design principles in practice. Let's look at the next important step for the implementation of accessibility in a big organization. You should create an interdisciplinary exchange group. I think we have in all those organizations kind of silos where people work on their daily streams, and we haven't so often exchange between us. Accessibility is a very good topic to raise this interdisciplinary work, and the entire process is led by this core group formed with representatives of each team. So development has one or two representatives, publishing, the project managers, the content owners, and the creatives. All sit in this group. We have bi-weekly meetings and connect the teams for awareness, for training, for checklist creation, and just for exchange. The result is then that we have specific guidelines and checklists for all the groups, and that we can as well have the monitoring tool run in the different teams. We support as well with web publishing guidelines, something that I mentioned before. So we have that online, and it supplements the template, which is already set up in a way that it guarantees accessibility. For example, there are colors available that are always proof or secure to use. And with the 15 checkpoints we have there laid out, you can really create accessible information and be compliant. At the other hand, we have an e-learning academy online with in-depth training, and we made that mandatory for all content producers and content owners. It was very helpful. I mean, there are many products are out there from different providers, and it's very useful to have that, and that it's in a way engaging and based on video. And what here is really helpful is that we have a kind of an overview. We see if the users did the training. We have the percentage of absolved training units visible. Yeah, our solution is run by Siteimprove Academy, and strongly can recommend that, because education is really necessary, and that's as well why we made it mandatory. Let me look or show you quickly on certain examples of our web publishing guidelines. I mean, that's important to bring it in a way, to communicate it in a way that people understand it. And WCAG are hard to consume, and they do a lot, W3C and the working groups, and but we have to drill it even more down to a easy to understand format. That's an example for providing captions and text transcript on all video and audio assets. And you see, we bring or put some success criteria from the guidelines together to these 15 checkpoints, and look in the background that we cover everything. So that's, in our point of view, quite helpful as well. Always we try to show the impact on usability. Here only 2 bubbles of 3, and the impact on SEO, 3 bubbles of 3. We have then always a link here that leads to the online platform where we have much more information ready. For example, PDF documents. It's always a hard piece to bite for everybody, but as well we try to make them tagged and to optimize them after export into PDF. There we have a lot of training materials and further information online, or for the forms that we have as well prepared on the technical level quite well, so that they are ready to use. But it's really necessary that the content owner adapts the error messages and doesn't let them in a generic way, because the generic way, please fill out mandatory field, would then sound for each and every form element the same. And if it's adapted, please choose at least one investment inside topic. It gets much easier to use and will for sure have a much better conversion rate. GMCS Web Accessibility Initiative is now running, and we have 2 key streams of work running. That's one, remediation of existing content, because we want to optimize existing pages until 2020, reach level AA. That gives us a lot to do. So we tailored packages of the different sites based on country or industry, and go through all those pages. The second is quality assurance and monitoring of new content. So we ensure that all new content is AA compliant from the start, and we try to reduce effort spent for remediation of pages. We have the guidelines on Polo. We consult with the business. So we reach out. We have such a lot of content owners that publish content. It's incredible. I learn each month that there is a new group there that creates this or that, and we have all to bring them all to the level to educate them and explain what they need to do. And therefore we create tailored resources again and again and develop checklists and guidelines. We have this regular site monitoring with a monitoring tool running, and this helps us a lot to support the remediation and as well to consult the business when they create new projects. We can, after publishing, pull a list of the state of the pages and then reach out and ask for this and that to optimize. And we create new processes for documents creation, PDF. There we are still on the way, because we would like to have the basic templates optimized so that the export is best on the best possible state. And for videos, we are implementing a process for automated captions generation that will then be optimized manually and exported to transcripts. So that's that's the situation where we are now, and still ongoing. We had in September an external audit that confirmed that we are on the good way, kind of in the medium quality part. So there is still a lot to improve, but yeah, we are on the way. Let me quickly do a wrap up of this talk. So first, accessibility is part of the UBS communication strategy. I mean, that's important. And inclusive design is really an opportunity for strategic design decision making. So we try to make accessibility kind of our homework that we need to do, and implement inclusive design as a broader idea to include everybody and make a design that is very good, understandable, and perceivable. Implementation needs really a top-down decision. So we had earlier projects. The first was about now 14 years ago at UBS, starting to implementing accessibility. It was a huge amount of work, but it slept after 1-2 years, and the level was after 1-2 years as bad as before. So implementation needs really to be implemented into the workflows and kind of being a part of the daily work, and that needs a policy and needs implementation into the job profiles. Another point is really, I would recommend to set it up as a change process. Maybe in the background, you should always be aware that it's really a change that you need to do. Change in mind and change in processes, and that needs time, and as well a certain let me search the word. Sorry, it's really important to me. A certain urgency. You have to create that to make the change. And many people are really so much used to do it the way that they know, and they had as well success in their way to do it. No, they do often quite good work and with a good quality. Why should they improve? Why should they change? So you have really to convince them, and for doing that, it's good to raise a certain sense of urgency. External audits are a good way to do that, because everybody wants to be reflected in a good way, but maybe there you find other ways to raise this. A core group is a very good idea to enable interdisciplinary exchange during the long-lasting implementation phase, and you really have to interconnect different teams. So PDF, for example, are created in almost everywhere. So you have to bring them all together and ensure that they can use the experiences of other teams. An online academy is very important and should be tailored the training to the teams. So because the knowledge necessary for accessibility is quite a wide area, and you really have to drill it down to the points that are really important for the specific people. And for a long-lasting and future-proof solution, accessibility monitoring is really a must. I mean, we have these automated scanning running, and it generates then lists, and we can complement it with manual testing. So it's clear we don't rely only on automated testing, but it's just a good way to support the amount of the 40,000 pages we have. Now we really need to go through all those thousands of pages. Yeah, that's why accessibility monitoring is really an important thing, and it's feasible. Today there are out there quite a few solutions that are affordable. Yeah, that's it from my side. Thank you a lot. I hope you have some questions, and yeah, hand it back to ID24.
Thank you very much for that, Sven. That was really enlightening. I've got a question from Laura on Twitter, and she asks, how does UBS define the 95%? Maybe I missed that. Is it the number of pages, auto scanning, or scanning of scanning platform based? What do you think?
It's a number based on content. You could say it's not based on pages, but it's on content. It's as we run the monitoring, we see kind of it's always the same question, but if we would say 100%, it's something we couldn't fulfill. So we think it's better to say 95%, and that's something we can reach based primarily on pages, but as well on content, because we have on certain parts content in I wouldn't say it's pages, it's content. Yeah, sorry for the bad explanation.
No, I think that does explain it. I've got a question myself, and I want to know, how did people on various levels of the company react to this project?
Yeah, it was different at the beginning, because it's not the first time that the topic was raised, and was a bit observed with fear as well. If we again raise training that is boring, repeat always the same basic awareness campaigns, but we tried to make it really more coming to the point and not boring in a way, and that was really good, because we included all those people from the beginning on with certain representatives, and when they gave us a bad feedback, we asked, yeah, but how can we improve? Could you please be more active, or change the people in the group so that you can be more active, and then we can tailor it much better to your needs. And that's really a good way to go. I can recommend.
Yeah, it sounds great. And maybe one more question. What advice would you give to teams or individuals in large companies if they are interested in accessibility and seeing the company implement accessibilities? What can they do to get the attention of management and gain that top level support that's so important?
I think they should raise the business case and explain that and the importance, and really show the opportunities and reach out to the management, and that really needs to be done. And I had the opportunity here that our management was convinced, and they looked at companies like Apple or Airbnb that go the way for inclusive design, and said we want to be like them. And that, I think you have to convince management first so that they support this. That's key.
Yes, that's something I've personally found is really important. Without that support,
it's not
it's
so
really
easy.
hard.
It sounds good. Yeah.
Thank you for the answers.
Hello, Sven. It's really nice to see you using the inclusive design principles that Leonie, Henny, Hayden, and I wrote some time ago.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
I find it interesting that it seems like the financial services have really sort of gravitated towards these. Our another ID24 sponsor, Barclays, the accessibility team there to get put together some fantastic infographics that you can download from the Inclusive Design Principles websites. Do you have any idea why financial services companies are sort of drawn to them?
I think, yeah, it's just the look to the positive, to the bright, to the light, and it's much easier to understand. I think accessibility is based on the universal design principles, and then the structure is really hard to understand. And I think each and every framework that gives you a bit more and easier to implement, to apply in practice, hands-on, and good sounding, convincing wording, that's helpful. And so we are always on the look, on the search for helpful frameworks to underline our decisions. And I think there are others out there as well, from Google and other companies, that raised the topic inclusive design as a strategic decision making, and that it goes much further than accessibility. And I think that's helpful and that's convincing, and that's why they listen quite good to that.
Yeah, well, we are just delighted that they are useful. So thank you so much for your talk. It was really interesting. A lot to take on board there, I think. So I will just wrap up by saying, if you liked this session, please hit the YouTube like button, and don't forget to subscribe to youtube.com/inclusivedesign24 for future notifications. Inclusive Design 24 is brought to you with thanks to our gold supporters, Barclays Access and Intopia, our silver supporters, Adobe and Siteimprove, and our bronze supporters, Samsung Internet, DQ Systems, and the Pasilo Group. And it is captioned by MyClearText. We will be back on the hour with Seth M. Kane and the presentation To Boldly Go Where No SPA Has Gone Before. Join us then.